Long before our modern age of skyscrapers and advanced engineering, ancient civilizations built incredible monuments that pushed the boundaries of human creativity and ingenuity. These extraordinary structures were known as the Seven Wonders of the Ancient World, celebrated for their immense scale, artistic beauty, and the engineering marvels they represented. They were a source of pride for the people who built them and an inspiration for travelers and scholars who gazed upon them. The Seven Wonders are the Great Pyramid of Giza, the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, the statue of Zeus at Olympia, the Temple of Artemis at Ephesus, the Mausoleum at Halicarnassus, the Colossus of Rhodes, the Lighthouse of Alexandria. The Seven Wonders captured the imagination of ancient writers and travelers, becoming symbols of cultural identity and human achievement. Today, they continue to inspire wonder and admiration, even though most have been lost to time. Join me on this journey back in time as we explore each wonder in detail, envisioning their grandeur and reflecting on the civilizations that built them. Chapter 1. The Great Pyramid of Giza. Our journey begins in Egypt, where the desert sands stretch as far as the eye can see, and the mighty Nile River winds its way through the heart of this ancient land. It is here, on the Giza Plateau, that one of the most iconic and awe-inspiring monuments of human history was built, the Great Pyramid of Giza. Constructed during the reign of Pharaoh Khufu, also known as Cheops, in the 4th dynasty, around 2580 to 2560 BCE, the Great Pyramid is the oldest of the Seven Wonders of the ancient world, and the only one still standing. For nearly 4,000 years, it was the tallest man-made structure on Earth, towering over the landscape at a height of 481 feet, 147 meters. Even today, after millennia of weathering and erosion, the pyramid remains an extraordinary testament to the ingenuity and ambition of the ancient Egyptians. As you imagine yourself standing before this colossal structure, take in the sheer scale of the pyramid. Its base covers an area of 13 acres, about 5,600 square meters, and its 4 triangular sides rise up, perfectly aligned with the cardinal points of the compass: north, south, east, and west. Each side was originally covered with smooth, white Tura limestone casing stones, which would have reflected the sunlight and made the pyramid shine like a beacon in the desert. Although most of these casing stones have been removed over time, you can still sense the grandeur that the pyramid once held, gleaming brilliantly under the Egyptian sun. The construction of the Great Pyramid is one of the greatest engineering achievements of the ancient world. It is estimated that around 2.3 million blocks of limestone and granite were used, with each block weighing between 2.5 and 15 tons. The precision with which these massive stones were cut, transported, and placed is still a source of fascination for historians, archaeologists, and engineers alike. Imagine the scene thousands of years ago, as tens of thousands of skilled workers and laborers toiled under the hot sun, carefully maneuvering the enormous stones into place. The workers, contrary to popular belief, were not slaves but paid laborers who lived in nearby workers' villages. These communities were equipped with bakeries, breweries, and medical facilities, ensuring that the laborers were well fed and cared for. The project required not only manpower, but a deep understanding of mathematics, geometry, and astronomy. The ancient Egyptians devised an ingenious system of ramps, sledges, and levers to move the stone blocks from the quarries to the construction site. Ramps made of mud brick and limestone were built to lift the blocks to the upper levels of the pyramid, while teams of workers used ropes and wooden sledges to drag the stones across the desert. It was a laborious and time-consuming process, taking an estimated 20 to 30 years to complete the pyramid. As you stand at the base of the pyramid, you can almost hear the distant echoes of workers' voices, their chants filling the air as they labor together to build this eternal monument. The energy and determination of these ancient builders seem to linger in the air, reminding you of the incredible effort and dedication required to create such a monumental structure. The purpose of the Great Pyramid was to serve as a tomb for Pharaoh Khufu, ensuring his safe passage to the afterlife. In ancient Egyptian belief, the pharaoh was not just a ruler, but a living god, responsible for maintaining the harmony of the universe. After his death, it was essential that the pharaoh's body be preserved and his soul properly guided to the afterlife, where he would join the gods and continue to protect his people from the spiritual realm. The pyramid was designed with great care, not only as a final resting place, but as a means of helping Khufu's soul ascend to the heavens. The internal structure of the pyramid is just as fascinating as its exterior. Hidden within its core are three main chambers: the king's chamber, the queen's chamber, and the subterranean chamber, along with a series of narrow passageways and shafts that were aligned with certain stars. These alignments were no accident. The ancient Egyptians believed that these stars would guide the pharaoh's soul on its journey to eternity. Imagine entering the pyramid through its narrow, sloping corridors, the walls lined with the cool touch of ancient stone. The air is thick with the silence of centuries, and each step brings you closer to the heart of the pyramid, where the king's chamber lies. This chamber, made of massive granite blocks transported from quarries over 500 miles away, is the final resting place of Pharaoh Khufu's sarcophagus. The chamber itself is stark and simple, but the weight of history and the pharaoh's divine presence is almost palpable. The Great Pyramid was part of a larger mortuary complex that included two smaller pyramids for Khufu's queens, several mastabas, rectangular tombs, for high-ranking officials, temples, and causeways. The complex was designed to reflect the grandeur and power of the pharaoh in life and ensure his eternal protection in death. Surrounding the pyramids were necropolises, where the bodies of nobles and workers were buried, reflecting the close connection between the pharaoh and his people. Beyond its role as a tomb, the pyramid may have had symbolic significance related to ancient Egyptian cosmology. The pyramid's shape, rising from a square base to a pointed apex, was thought to represent the primordial mound from which the world was created, according to Egyptian mythology. It also symbolized the rays of the sun, with the pharaoh's soul ascending to join the god Ra, the sun god in the afterlife. Imagine the pyramid at night, as the sky turns dark and the stars begin to twinkle above the desert. In ancient times, the stars were thought to be the souls of the dead, shining down from the heavens. The pyramid, aligned with the stars, acts as a bridge between the earthly and the divine, a conduit for the pharaoh's journey to the afterlife. The Great Pyramid has withstood the test of time, surviving earthquakes, invasions, and the ravages of nature. It has inspired countless generations of architects, explorers, and dreamers, and remains one of the most visited and studied monuments in the world. The secrets it holds within its stone walls continue to captivate the imagination of people across the globe. As you stand in the shadow of this colossal wonder, reflect on the ingenuity, dedication, and faith that went into its construction. The Great Pyramid of Giza is not just a monument to a single ruler. It is a testament to the enduring power of human creativity and the desire to reach for eternity. Let the stillness of the pyramid and the quiet strength of the desert night bring you a sense of calm and peace. Imagine yourself resting in the cool shade of this ancient wonder, its stones whispering the stories of those who came before. As you drift off to sleep, let the pyramid's timeless presence guide you toward a deep, restful slumber. Chapter 2. The Hanging Gardens of Babylon. Our journey now takes us to the heart of ancient Mesopotamia, to the legendary city of Babylon. Situated along the banks of the great Euphrates River, Babylon was a center of culture, power, and architectural splendor. It is within this magnificent city, according to ancient writers, that one of the most mysterious and enchanting wonders of the world once stood: the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. Legend has it that the gardens were built around 600 BCE by King Nebuchadnezzar II, one of the most powerful rulers of the Neo-Babylonian Empire. The king created these gardens as a gift for his wife, Queen Amytis of Media, who longed for the lush, mountainous landscapes of her homeland, far from the flat, arid plains of Babylon. To comfort her, and to remind her of her native lands, Nebuchadnezzar ordered the construction of an extraordinary terraced garden that defied the harsh desert climate and brought the beauty of green hills into the heart of Babylon. As you imagine the hanging gardens, picture a grand, tiered structure rising high above the city. Each terrace is filled with an abundance of trees, flowers, and vines, cascading over the edges like waterfalls of greenery. The gardens are supported by tall stone columns and arches, forming a series of layered platforms that seem to reach for the sky. The higher you look, the more verdant and lush the terraces become, as though a mountain had been brought to life in the middle of the desert. The ancient sources describe the gardens as a marvel of engineering and natural beauty, with wide walkways and staircases winding between the terraces. Imagine walking through these gardens, your feet sinking softly into the earth, surrounded by fragrant blossoms and the gentle rustling of leaves. The air is cool and moist, in stark contrast to the heat and dust of the Babylonian streets below. You feel as though you have stepped into another world, a peaceful haven far removed from the bustling city. The most remarkable feature of the Hanging Gardens was their ingenious irrigation system, designed to keep the gardens green and flourishing in the arid climate of Mesopotamia. According to some accounts, water from the Euphrates River was drawn up to the highest terraces using a system of pulleys, screws, or chain pumps, creating an artificial waterfall that nourished the plants and trees below. This water would cascade down from terrace to terrace, ensuring that each level received the moisture it needed to thrive. Imagine the sound of water trickling softly through the gardens, filling the air with a gentle, soothing melody. The water flows through carefully designed channels, weaving between flower beds and pools, nourishing the roots of palm trees, fig trees, and exotic plants from far-off lands. The scent of jasmine, roses, and lavender fills the air, mingling with the earthy fragrance of damp soil. Birds sing from the treetops, and butterflies flit between the flowers, adding to the magical atmosphere. The gardens were said to be filled with an array of plants, many of which were brought from distant regions to recreate the landscapes that Queen Amytis missed so dearly. Towering date palms provided shade, while fragrant herbs, fruit-bearing trees, and colorful flowers added texture and life to the terraces. Vines draped over the stone walls, creating natural curtains of greenery, while flowering shrubs bloomed in every corner. As you wander through the terraces, you feel a sense of calm and wonder, as though nature itself has been tamed and shaped into something beyond the ordinary. The grandeur of the hanging gardens, combined with the meticulous care that went into their creation, is a testament to the power of love and the desire to bring beauty into the world, even in the most unexpected places. But were the hanging gardens real, or were they a product of ancient imagination, a poetic vision of paradise in the heart of the desert? Unlike other wonders of the ancient world, the hanging gardens have left behind no definitive archaeological evidence. No ruins have been found that can be conclusively identified as the gardens described by ancient historians like Strabo and Diodorus Siculus. This absence of physical proof has led some scholars to question whether the gardens were ever built at all, or if they were an idealized version of a garden, created through the stories of travelers and poets. Some historians have suggested that the gardens may not have been located in Babylon at all, but rather in the city of Nineveh, the capital of the Assyrian Empire. It is possible that later writers, hearing tales of Nineveh's impressive gardens, mistakenly attributed them to Babylon. Others believe that the gardens existed in Babylon but were destroyed long ago, leaving no trace of their once glorious presence. Regardless of their true origin, the hanging gardens have captured the imagination of generations. They represent the human desire to create beauty, to transform the natural world into something both harmonious and spectacular. The story of the hanging gardens reflects the deep connection between people and the land, and the lengths to which we will go to bring life and joy to those we love. Imagine the scene as dusk begins to settle over Babylon. The sun sinks low on the horizon, casting a warm golden light over the city and the gardens. The shadows lengthen and the air becomes cooler, carrying with it the soft fragrance of evening blooms. As you gaze out over the terraces, the city of Babylon stretches below you, its walls and towers bathed in the soft glow of twilight. The sound of water continues to flow gently through the gardens, and the last rays of sunlight glint off the leaves and flowers, turning the scene into a serene, dreamlike paradise. From this vantage point, you can see the famous walls of Babylon, massive and imposing, stretching around the city like a protective embrace. Beyond the walls, the mighty Euphrates River flows steadily, its waters shimmering in the fading light. The city is alive with activity. Merchants trading in the market, children playing in the streets, priests offering prayers at the great temples dedicated to Marduk and Ishtar. But here, in the gardens, there is only peace, a quiet sanctuary above the noise and bustle of the world below. Imagine what it must have been like for Queen Amytis to walk through these gardens, finding comfort in their beauty and serenity. Far from her homeland, these terraces would have been a reminder of the forests and hills she once knew, a place where she could escape the heat of the Babylonian plains and the responsibilities of the royal court. The gardens, a labor of love, were a symbol of Nebuchadnezzar's devotion to her, and through them she could feel a connection to the place she once called home. As the night deepens and the stars begin to twinkle above the desert, the hanging gardens transform into a magical, almost otherworldly place. The moonlight casts a silvery glow over the leaves, and the sound of water becomes even more soothing in the quiet of the night. The city below fades into darkness, but the gardens remain a beacon of life and tranquility, a testament to the vision and ambition of those who built them. Though the Hanging Gardens may have been lost to history, their legacy endures. They remind us of the power of imagination and the deep relationship between humanity and the natural world. As you walk through the gardens in your mind, let the beauty of this ancient wonder fill your thoughts with peace. The gentle sounds of the flowing water, the fragrance of the flowers, and the soft rustling of the leaves invite you to relax and let go of the worries of the day. Chapter 3. The Statue of Zeus at Olympia. From the lush greenery of Babylon, our journey takes us west to ancient Greece, where the sacred sanctuary of Olympia was once home to one of the most magnificent sculptures of the ancient world, the statue of Zeus. This awe-inspiring statue was created in the mid-5th century BCE by the master sculptor Phidias, whose artistry captured the majesty and divine authority of the king of the gods. Olympia, situated in the western Peloponnese, was not only the site of the ancient Olympic Games, but also a major religious center. Pilgrims and athletes would come from all over the Greek world to honor Zeus, the supreme ruler of the Greek pantheon. At the heart of Olympia stood the grand temple of Zeus, and it was within this temple that the statue of Zeus was housed. As you picture the temple, imagine its impressive facade, constructed in the Doric style with towering columns that support a massive triangular pediment. The temple was a monumental structure in its own right, but what lay inside was the true wonder. The colossal statue of Zeus, seated upon an elaborate throne, watching over the worshippers below. Phidias's creation was more than just a statue. It was a symbol of divine power and artistic mastery. The statue stood over 40 feet tall, 12 meters, with Zeus depicted as a larger-than-life figure seated on a grand throne made of cedar wood, inlaid with precious stones, gold, ivory, and ebony. Zeus's robes were made of hammered gold, and his exposed flesh was carved from gleaming ivory, giving the statue a radiant, otherworldly presence. Imagine entering the dimly lit temple, the air heavy with the scent of burning incense. Before you rises the figure of Zeus, his face calm yet commanding, his eyes seemingly fixed on eternity. His throne is adorned with intricate carvings, depicting gods, mythical creatures, and animals, all crafted with exquisite detail. The entire scene is bathed in the soft glow of oil lamps, their flickering light reflecting off the golden robes and ivory skin of the god. Zeus holds two symbolic items in his hands. In his right hand, he holds a small statue of Nike, the winged goddess of victory, standing as though she is about to take flight. This gesture symbolizes Zeus's role as the ultimate arbiter of fate, the one who grants victory in both battle and sport. In his left hand, Zeus holds a scepter topped with an eagle, representing his dominion over the skies and the earth, and his authority over all gods and mortals. The artistic genius of Phidias was evident not only in the lifelike rendering of Zeus's features, but in the grandeur and spiritual presence that the statue evoked. Zeus was portrayed as a serene yet powerful figure, radiating both wisdom and strength, as though his divine gaze could command the entire world with a single glance. His throne was more than just a seat. It was a masterpiece of craftsmanship, decorated with scenes from mythology that conveyed the relationship between the gods and mankind. To imagine the scale and magnificence of the statue of Zeus is to understand the role of the Olympic Games in ancient Greece. Every 4 years, athletes from all over the Greek world would gather at Olympia to compete in honor of Zeus. The Games were not only a celebration of physical prowess, but also a religious festival, with sacrifices and prayers offered to the god in the hope of gaining his favor. The statue presided over these events, watching as the finest athletes competed in races, wrestling matches, and chariot races, all in the name of glory and honor. The temple and the statue were the centerpieces of Olympia, and their beauty and grandeur left an indelible mark on those who visited. Ancient writers like Pausanias and Strabo described the statue in awe-struck terms, noting the skill of Phidias and the immense presence of the god. The statue was not just a representation of Zeus. It was believed to be imbued with his divine spirit, an earthly manifestation of his power. Imagine standing in the temple, surrounded by the stillness and reverence of the sacred space. The size of the statue is overwhelming, its head nearly touching the ceiling of the temple. The craftsmanship and the materials used, ivory, gold, precious stones, speak of both the wealth and devotion of the people who commissioned it. Every detail, from the folds in Zeus's robe to the carefully carved figures on his throne, has been designed to inspire awe. Beyond its religious significance, the statue of Zeus was a symbol of Greek artistic achievement. The creation of such a massive and detailed statue required not only technical skill, but also a deep understanding of proportion and aesthetics. Phidias, renowned as one of the greatest sculptors of his time, pushed the boundaries of what was possible in art. The Greeks believed that beauty and harmony were reflections of the divine, and the statue of Zeus embodied these ideals. It was a physical representation of the Greeks' belief in the perfection of the gods and the desire to reflect that perfection in their art. As time passed, the statue of Zeus remained a central figure in Greek religion and culture. However, like many of the wonders of the ancient world, the statue did not survive the ravages of time. It is believed that the statue was either destroyed or lost during the later years of the Roman Empire, possibly in a fire or an earthquake. Phidias's workshop, located near the temple, was also lost, though archaeologists have discovered tools and molds used in the statue's construction, providing valuable insights into the techniques of the ancient sculptor. Though the statue of Zeus is no longer with us, its legacy endures through the writings and descriptions of ancient historians and travelers. The sheer scale and artistry of the statue continue to inspire modern-day artists and scholars who seek to understand how such a masterpiece could have been created in a time without modern tools and technologies. Imagine now the atmosphere during the Olympic Games, with thousands of spectators gathered in the stadium, their cheers echoing through the sanctuary. In the distance, the statue of Zeus looms large in the minds of the athletes, who compete not only for personal glory, but for the honor of pleasing the king of the gods. The tension builds as chariots race around the track, and wrestlers grapple in the dust, all under the watchful eye of Zeus. The games were not merely physical contests, they were sacred events, a means of connecting with the divine. Victorious athletes were crowned with laurel wreaths, symbols of honor and favor from the gods. Their names would be recorded for posterity, and statues would be erected in their honor. But the true prize was the blessing of Zeus himself, whose presence in the temple lent divine significance to every event. As the day draws to a close, the temple of Zeus stands tall and quiet, its doors open to the faithful who come to pay their respects. The statue, bathed in the soft glow of the setting sun, seems to take on a life of its own. The cool marble floors of the temple and the gentle breeze that flows through the open columns provide a sense of serenity. The statue of Zeus, with its calm expression and regal posture, seems eternal, a reminder of the divine order that governs the cosmos. the sacred sanctuary of Olympia, and the statue of Zeus within it, once embodied the unity and spirit of ancient Greece. Although the statue is no longer standing, its memory lives on, a symbol of the power and grace of the King of the gods, and of the artistic and spiritual heights reached by the ancient Greeks. Chapter 4. The Temple of Artemis at Ephesus. Our journey now takes us to the ancient city of Ephesus, located on the western coast of modern-day Turkey. It was here, in this bustling, prosperous city, that one of the most magnificent temples of the ancient world once stood, the Temple of Artemis. Known for its grandeur, scale, and beauty, the Temple of Artemis was a masterpiece of architecture and art, dedicated to the goddess Artemis, the protector of nature, women, and childbirth. The original temple was constructed around 550 BCE, under the guidance of the Lydian king Croesus, and it was built to honor Artemis, one of the most revered deities in the Greek pantheon. However, the temple we are most familiar with today was a later reconstruction, completed after the original was tragically destroyed by arson in 356 BCE. According to legend, the temple was burned down by a man named Herostratus, who sought infamy by destroying something so beautiful. On the very night of the fire, it was said that Artemis was absent from her temple, as she was attending the birth of Alexander the Great. Later, Alexander himself would offer to help rebuild the temple, but the people of Ephesus declined, wanting the honor of reconstruction for themselves. Imagine standing at the base of the Temple of Artemis in its full glory, gazing upward at the towering marble columns that rise above you, shimmering in the sunlight. The temple was vast, measuring 377 feet, 115 meters in length, and 180 feet, 55 meters in width, making it far larger than the Parthenon in Athens. It was supported by 127 columns, each standing over 60 feet tall, 18 meters, arranged in neat rows that encircled the entire structure. The columns themselves were intricately carved, their bases adorned with depictions of gods, goddesses, and mythical creatures, all meticulously rendered by the finest artisans of the time. The sheer size of the temple was awe-inspiring, but it was the artistic and architectural details that truly set it apart. Each column was not just a support structure, but a work of art in its own right, with intricate reliefs carved into the stone. These reliefs depicted scenes from the life of Artemis, the daughter of Zeus and Leto, and twin sister of Apollo. Artemis was the goddess of the hunt, the wilderness, and the moon. She was often depicted with a bow and arrow, accompanied by wild animals such as deer and bears, symbols of her dominion over nature. As you approach the temple, you notice the grand steps leading up to the entrance, flanked by massive bronze statues of lions, which served as guardians of the sanctuary. The air is filled with the scent of burning incense, and the soft murmur of prayers can be heard from worshippers gathered at the temple's steps, seeking the favor of the goddess. The temple was not only a place of worship, but also a center of commerce and culture. Pilgrims from across the Mediterranean would travel to Ephesus to leave offerings at the temple and pray for Artemis's protection over their families, harvests, and journeys. As you step inside the temple, the cool air and the dim light offer a welcome respite from the heat of the day. The interior of the temple is no less impressive than the exterior. The walls and ceilings are adorned with frescoes and mosaics, depicting Artemis in various aspects, guiding the hunt, protecting women in childbirth, and watching over the natural world. The goddess was also associated with the moon, and many of the mosaics feature the crescent moon as a symbol of her divine power. At the heart of the temple stands the magnificent statue of Artemis herself, a colossal figure crafted from gold, silver, and ivory. The statue is richly adorned with jewelry, and her many-breasted figure symbolizes her role as a nurturing mother and provider. Around her feet lie the offerings left by pilgrims, vases of fine pottery, intricately woven textiles, and coins from far-flung regions of the ancient world. Worshippers believed that Artemis could grant them fertility, protect them in times of danger, and guide them on their travels. The temple was not only a place for religious worship, but also a hub of economic activity. Its grounds were filled with merchants selling goods, artists creating sculptures and paintings, and scholars discussing philosophy. The wealth accumulated at the temple made it a powerful institution in the city of Ephesus, and it was respected by the rulers of nearby regions. Over time, the temple became one of the most famous pilgrimage sites in the ancient world, attracting visitors from Greece, Persia, Egypt, and Rome. Imagine the throngs of people arriving from distant lands, their ships docking in the harbor of Ephesus, with the majestic temple towering in the distance. Pilgrims would travel on foot or by cart along the grand processional way that led from the harbor to the temple, lined with statues of gods, kings, and mythical figures. As they approached the temple, their excitement and reverence grew, for they were about to enter one of the most sacred spaces in the ancient world. The Temple of Artemis played a crucial role in the cultural and spiritual life of Ephesus. Festivals dedicated to Artemis, known as Artemisia, were held annually, attracting thousands of people to the city. These festivals included athletic competitions, music, theater performances, and religious rituals. The streets of Ephesus would come alive with processions, as worshippers carried statues and offerings through the city, culminating in grand sacrifices at the temple. The festival was a celebration not only of the goddess, but of the unity and prosperity she brought to the city. The temple itself was a reflection of the prosperity and influence of Ephesus. Its construction and decoration required the collaboration of skilled architects, sculptors, and artists from across the Greek world. Among the most famous of these was the architect Chersiphron, who designed the temple's layout, and the sculptor Scopas, who contributed to the reliefs and statues. The temple's scale and beauty were meant to rival that of any other monument in the ancient world, a testament to the power and devotion of the Ephesian people. Despite its grandeur, the Temple of Artemis faced destruction multiple times throughout history. In addition to the fire set by Herostratus, the temple was later damaged and destroyed during invasions and earthquakes. In the 3rd century CE, it was finally abandoned after the rise of Christianity in the region. Today, only a few scattered ruins remain of this once great wonder, but the memory of its splendor endures. As you walk through the remains of the temple in your mind, imagine the life and energy that once filled this sacred space. The grand columns, now fallen, once reached toward the heavens, and the statue of Artemis, now lost to time, once stood as a symbol of protection and divine grace. The temple may be gone, but its legacy lives on in the stories of those who visited it and the art and architecture it inspired. The Temple of Artemis at Ephesus was not just a building, it was a reflection of the values and beliefs of the ancient world. It represented the harmony between nature and civilization, the power of the gods to influence human affairs, and the ability of humans to create lasting beauty through art and architecture. Though time has eroded the temple's physical presence, its spirit remains a reminder of the connection between the divine and the human, and the desire to leave a mark on the world that transcends time. Chapter 5. The Mausoleum at Halicarnassus. Our journey now takes us to the ancient city of Halicarnassus, located in modern-day Bodrum, Turkey. It was here, in the 4th century BCE, that one of the most extraordinary monuments of the ancient world was constructed, the Mausoleum at Halicarnassus. This grand tomb was built as the final resting place for Mausolus, a ruler of Caria, and it was so magnificent that his name became synonymous with grand tombs throughout history. The word mausoleum that we use today comes directly from the name of this ancient wonder. Mausolus ruled over Caria, a region of the Persian Empire, from 377 to 353 BCE. He was a powerful satrap, governor, who expanded his kingdom and brought prosperity to his people. When Mausolus died, his wife and sister, Artemisia, was left heartbroken. She decided to honor him by commissioning a tomb so grand, so elaborate, that it would be remembered for centuries. Artemisia spared no expense in its creation, and the mausoleum became not just a tomb, but a symbol of love, power, and the heights of architectural achievement. Imagine standing at the base of the mausoleum, a towering structure that once stood over 148 feet, 45 meters high. The tomb was set upon a large platform, with each side measuring 125 feet, 38 meters, giving it an imposing presence over the city of Halicarnassus. The entire structure was built from gleaming white marble, and it was adorned with elaborate sculptures and reliefs created by the most skilled artists of the time. The mausoleum was designed in a unique combination of architectural styles, blending Greek, Egyptian, and Lycian influences. The structure was divided into 3 main sections: the base, which consisted of a large rectangular platform; the middle section, which was surrounded by 36 columns arranged in a peristyle; and the top section, which was a stepped pyramid that rose toward the heavens. At the very peak of the pyramid stood a grand statue of Mausolus and Artemisia, riding a 4-horse chariot, symbolizing their eternal journey together in the afterlife. As you walk around the mausoleum, you can see the intricately carved friezes that line the base of the structure. These friezes depict scenes from battles, mythology, and the life of Mausolus himself. In one panel, you see a fierce battle between the Greeks and Amazons, their muscular forms rendered in exquisite detail, their faces full of intensity and determination. In another, you see a procession of gods and goddesses, their divine figures gazing serenely out at the world below. The statues that adorned the mausoleum were created by 4 of the greatest sculptors of the time: Scopas, Bryaxis, Leocharis, and Timotheus. Each artist was responsible for one side of the monument, and their individual styles contributed to the overall beauty and grandeur of the structure. The attention to detail in the carvings was astonishing. Every fold of the warriors' cloaks, every muscle in their arms, every expression on their faces was meticulously crafted. The result was a tomb that was not only a resting place for Mausolus, but a true work of art. As you imagine the mausoleum in its full glory, picture the sunlight reflecting off the smooth marble, casting long shadows across the stone reliefs. The tomb stands in the middle of a lush garden, with flowering trees and neatly trimmed hedges surrounding it. The scent of jasmine and roses fills the air, carried on the gentle breeze from the nearby Aegean Sea. The mausoleum dominates the skyline of Halicarnassus, its towering form visible from miles away, a testament to the power and influence of the ruler it honors. Artemisia's devotion to Mausolus was so deep that, according to legend, she was consumed with grief after his death. It is said that she mixed his ashes with wine and drank them, believing that this would allow her to carry a part of him with her forever. Whether or not this story is true, it speaks to the love and dedication Artemisia felt toward her husband, and the mausoleum became a lasting symbol of that love. The construction of the mausoleum was a massive undertaking, involving hundreds of laborers, artisans, and architects. The finest materials were imported from across the ancient world: marble from nearby quarries, gold and silver for the decorations, and precious stones for the intricate mosaics that lined the tomb's interior. It took several years to complete, and by the time it was finished, Artemisia had also passed away. She was buried alongside Mausolus in the tomb, ensuring that they would be together for eternity. Inside the mausoleum, the burial chamber was richly decorated, with walls covered in paintings and mosaics. The sarcophagus of Mausolus and Artemisia, carved from a single block of marble, lay in the center of the chamber, surrounded by offerings of gold, silver, and precious jewels. The tomb was not just a place of rest, but a celebration of the life and achievements of Mausolus, as well as a symbol of the wealth and power of the Carian kingdom. The mausoleum at Halicarnassus was one of the most famous and admired buildings of the ancient world, attracting visitors from across the Mediterranean who marveled at its scale and beauty. Ancient writers like Pliny the Elder described it in vivid detail, noting the skill of the sculptors and the majesty of the structure. For centuries, the mausoleum stood as a symbol of the greatness of Mausolus and the love of Artemisia, a wonder of both architecture and art. But like many of the wonders of the ancient world, the mausoleum did not survive the ravages of time. Earthquakes in the 12th and 15th centuries caused significant damage to the structure, and by the time the Knights of St. John arrived in the 15th century, much of the mausoleum had already collapsed. The knights repurposed many of the stones to build their own fortress, and today only the foundations and a few scattered fragments remain of what was once one of the greatest monuments of the ancient world. However, the legacy of the mausoleum endures. The word mausoleum has come to represent any grand tomb, and the influence of the mausoleum at Halicarnassus can be seen in many of the great tombs and memorials built throughout history. Its architectural style, combining elements of Greek, Egyptian, and Lycian design, has inspired countless structures, from the tomb of Emperor Hadrian in Rome to the modern-day Taj Mahal. As you stand in your mind's eye at the site of the mausoleum, imagine the grandeur of the structure as it once was: the towering columns, the finely detailed sculptures, and the majestic statue of Mausolus and Artemisia at its peak. The tomb was not just a place of rest. It was a monument to love, power, and the artistic brilliance of the ancient world. Even in its ruins, the mausoleum at Halicarnassus continues to inspire awe and wonder, reminding us of the enduring legacy of those who sought to leave their mark on history. Chapter 6. The Colossus of Rhodes. Our journey now takes us to the sun-drenched island of Rhodes, located in the southeastern Aegean Sea, where one of the most iconic statues of the ancient world once stood, the Colossus of Rhodes. This immense statue, built in honor of the sun god Helios, was not only a symbol of the island's strength and prosperity, but also one of the most extraordinary engineering feats of antiquity. Erected around 280 BCE, the Colossus of Rhodes stood as a testament to the resilience and determination of the Rhodians, who had recently defended their city from a massive siege. The Colossus was built to commemorate the Rhodians' victory over the forces of Demetrius I, who had laid siege to Rhodes in 305 BCE. Despite being heavily outnumbered and besieged for over a year, the people of Rhodes managed to repel the attack, and in gratitude to their patron god, Helios, they decided to construct a monument that would stand as a symbol of their triumph and freedom. The statue of Helios, known as the Colossus, became one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, towering above the city as a beacon of victory and strength. Imagine arriving by ship into the bustling harbor of Rhodes, where the mighty Colossus once stood, welcoming sailors from all corners of the Mediterranean. As you approach the harbor, you see the massive figure of Helios, the sun god, standing proudly on a pedestal, his body gleaming in the sunlight. The statue is made of bronze, and its metallic surface reflects the light of the sun, making it appear as though Helios himself is radiating divine energy. The Colossus was a massive statue, standing over 108 feet tall, 33 meters, making it one of the tallest statues of the ancient world. To give you a sense of scale, it was roughly the same height as the Statue of Liberty's pedestal to the tip of her torch. The statue was constructed by the sculptor Chares of Lendos, a pupil of the great sculptor Lysippos, and it took 12 years to complete. The sheer size and complexity of the Colossus made it a marvel of ancient engineering, requiring both technical expertise and artistic vision. As you picture the Colossus in your mind, imagine Helios standing tall with one hand raised in a gesture of triumph, holding a torch or a spear, while his other hand rests on his side. His face is calm and resolute, his gaze fixed on the horizon as if watching over the sea and the people of Rhodes. His body is strong and muscular, representing both the physical power of the sun god and the strength of the Rhodian people. The statue was built using an iron framework, which was then covered with bronze plates to form the outer surface. The bronze was cast in large sections and carefully assembled around the framework, creating a hollow interior that allowed the statue to stand tall without collapsing under its own weight. It is believed that the Rhodians used siege towers and scaffolding to raise the bronze plates into place, and some accounts suggest that the metal used in the statue came from the melted-down weapons and equipment left behind by Demetrius's army after their defeat. Imagine the workmen laboring day after day to construct the Colossus, their tools ringing out as they hammered the bronze plates into place. The sun beats down on them, casting long shadows across the harbor, but their efforts are tireless. Each piece of the statue is meticulously crafted and fitted together, and, as the statue grows taller, so too does the sense of pride among the people of Rhodes. The Colossus is more than just a statue. It is a symbol of their resilience, a reminder that they have overcome great odds to defend their city and their freedom. The Colossus was strategically placed at the entrance to the harbor, where it could be seen by sailors approaching from the sea. Although many popular depictions show the Colossus straddling the harbor, with ships passing between its legs, this is unlikely, as such a design would have required an engineering feat beyond the capabilities of the time. Instead, the Colossus most likely stood on one side of the harbor, towering over the ships and offering a reassuring sight to sailors and traders arriving in Rhodes. Helios, the sun god, was the patron deity of Rhodes, and his statue represented the island's connection to the heavens. The Rhodians believed that Helios had watched over them during the siege, helping them to achieve their improbable victory. The Colossus, therefore, was not just a monument to human achievement. It was also a tribute to the divine protection that the people of Rhodes believed they had received from their god. The construction of the Colossus was a monumental undertaking, both in terms of resources and labor. The Rhodians spared no expense, using the spoils of war to finance the project. It is said that they sold the bronze and iron left behind by Demetrius's army to raise the necessary funds, and that the wealth generated from this sale allowed them to commission the best sculptors and craftsmen from across the Greek world. Despite its grandeur and the technical prowess required to build it, the Colossus of Rhodes stood for only 54 years before it was toppled by a powerful earthquake in 226 BCE. The earthquake struck Rhodes with devastating force, and while the city's harbor and walls remained largely intact, the Colossus was not so fortunate. The statue broke at the knees, and the massive figure of Helios crashed to the ground, its bronze plates scattered across the harbor. Even in its fallen state, however, the Colossus continued to inspire awe. Ancient writers like Pliny the Elder described the remains of the statue in reverent terms, noting that the pieces of the fallen Colossus were still so large that few people could wrap their arms around its fingers. For centuries, the ruins of the Colossus remained a popular tourist attraction, with travelers coming from far and wide to marvel at the remnants of this once great wonder. Although the people of Rhodes considered rebuilding the Colossus, they were ultimately dissuaded by an oracle, who warned that the gods had caused the statue to fall and that rebuilding it would invite further misfortune. The broken statue remained where it had fallen for over 800 years, until it was eventually sold for scrap metal by invading Arabs in the 7th century CE. It is said that the bronze was melted down and transported to Syria, where it was repurposed for other uses. Though the Colossus of Rhodes no longer stands, its legacy endures in the stories and myths of the ancient world. The image of a giant statue watching over a city's harbor, gleaming in the sunlight, has captured the imaginations of people for millennia. The Colossus became a symbol not only of Rhodes, but of human ambition and the desire to create something that would stand the test of time. The Colossus of Rhodes, like the other wonders of the ancient world, was a reflection of the values and beliefs of its creators. It represented the triumph of the human spirit, the ability to overcome adversity, and the connection between the divine and the mortal. The people of Rhodes saw themselves as protected by Helios, and the Colossus stood as a reminder that even in times of difficulty, their strength and resilience would see them through. As you imagine the fallen Colossus lying in the harbor, its once proud form now broken but still majestic, consider the legacy it has left behind. The Colossus may have stood for only a short time, but its impact was profound. It was a symbol of hope, victory, and unity, a monument to the power of the human spirit and the divine protection that the people of Rhodes believed in so deeply. Chapter 7. The Lighthouse of Alexandria. Our journey now brings us to the majestic city of Alexandria, situated on the northern coast of Egypt, where one of the most famous structures of the ancient world once stood, the Lighthouse of Alexandria. Known as the Pharos of Alexandria, this towering beacon was built on the small island of Pharos, just off the coast of the city, and it was considered not only a wonder of the ancient world, but a marvel of engineering and design. Rising above the Mediterranean Sea, the lighthouse guided sailors safely into Alexandria's bustling harbor, its light visible for miles across the water. Constructed around 280 BCE, Under the rule of Ptolemy II Philadelphus, the Lighthouse of Alexandria stood as a symbol of the city's importance as a hub of trade, culture, and knowledge. Alexandria was founded by Alexander the Great in 331 BCE and quickly became one of the most prominent cities in the Mediterranean world, renowned for its great library, its vibrant intellectual life, and its cosmopolitan population. The lighthouse, built to guide ships into its busy port, became a symbol of the city's prosperity and its connection to the sea. Imagine standing on the shores of Alexandria as the sun sets, casting a warm, golden glow over the waters of the Mediterranean. In the distance, you can see the Lighthouse of Alexandria rising tall and proud from the island of Pharos, its stone tower reaching toward the sky. At the very top of the lighthouse, a fire burns brightly, its light reflected by polished bronze mirrors, sending beams of light out across the darkening sea. The beacon is a reassuring sight for sailors navigating the treacherous waters, guiding them safely toward the harbor. The lighthouse was a massive structure, standing approximately 330 feet tall, 100 meters, making it one of the tallest buildings in the ancient world. It was constructed in 3 tiers. The lowest section was square and served as a sturdy base. The middle section was cylindrical, tapering as it rose, and the top section was a smaller open lantern room where the fire burned. At the very top of the lighthouse was a statue, likely of Zeus or Poseidon, watching over the sea and the ships that approached the harbor. The base of the lighthouse was made of large blocks of limestone and granite, providing a solid foundation to withstand the harsh coastal winds and the frequent earthquakes that shook the region. The walls of the tower were thick and reinforced, and the overall design was as much a feat of engineering as it was a symbol of the city's wealth and power. As you imagine walking toward the lighthouse, you can hear the sound of the waves crashing against the shore and feel the cool breeze coming off the sea. The air is filled with the smell of salt water and the faint scent of wood smoke from the fire that burns atop the lighthouse. The tower stands as a sentinel, keeping watch over the sea, its presence both imposing and comforting. The Lighthouse of Alexandria was not only a practical tool for navigation, but also a symbol of Alexandria's status as a center of learning and culture. The city was home to the famous Library of Alexandria, which attracted scholars and intellectuals from across the Mediterranean world. The lighthouse, like the library, represented the city's role as a beacon of knowledge, a place where people from different cultures and backgrounds could come together to share ideas and discoveries. To ensure that the light from the fire could be seen from far out at sea, the architects of the lighthouse employed a system of polished bronze mirrors, which reflected and magnified the light, sending beams of light across the horizon. The technology was advanced for its time and demonstrated the ingenuity of the engineers who built the lighthouse. The mirrors were positioned to focus the light in a specific direction, ensuring that ships approaching from the open sea could see the beacon long before they reached the shore. Imagine being a sailor on a ship approaching the port of Alexandria after a long and difficult journey across the Mediterranean. The sea is dark, the waves high, and the stars begin to twinkle in the night sky. As you scan the horizon, you suddenly see the light of the lighthouse shining like a star, guiding your way to safety. The sight of the beacon fills you with relief and gratitude, knowing that you are nearing the end of your journey and that the city of Alexandria is waiting to welcome you. The lighthouse was also a symbol of the power of the Ptolemaic dynasty, which ruled Egypt after the death of Alexander the Great. Ptolemy the Firmsoter, the founder of the Ptolemaic dynasty, established Alexandria as his capital, and, under his successors, the city flourished as a major center of trade, art, and science. The Lighthouse of Alexandria was a reflection of the city's prosperity, a visible reminder of its importance in the ancient world. The island of Pharos, where the lighthouse was built, was connected to the mainland by a causeway known as the Heptastadion, which was approximately 7 stadia, about a mile, long. This causeway not only linked the island to the city, but also divided the harbor into 2 parts, the Great Harbor to the east and the Eunostos Harbor to the west. The lighthouse, positioned at the entrance to the Great Harbor, ensured that ships could safely navigate the waters and avoid the dangerous reefs and sandbars that lay just offshore. As you imagine walking across the Heptastadion toward the lighthouse, the city of Alexandria comes into view behind you. The city is alive with activity, its streets filled with merchants, scholars, and sailors from all over the Mediterranean. The smell of spices and exotic goods fills the air, and the sound of voices speaking in many different languages creates a vibrant, cosmopolitan atmosphere. Alexandria is a city of trade and ideas, a place where cultures meet and knowledge is shared, and the lighthouse stands as a symbol of the city's openness to the world. The Lighthouse of Alexandria stood for centuries as one of the most famous landmarks in the ancient world. It was described by numerous ancient writers, including Strabo and Pliny the Elder, who marveled at its height and the ingenuity of its design. Sailors and travelers alike came to rely on the lighthouse as a guide, and its fame spread far beyond the shores of Egypt. However, like many of the wonders of the ancient world, the Lighthouse of Alexandria was eventually destroyed by natural forces. The region was prone to earthquakes, and over the centuries, the lighthouse suffered damage from several major quakes. By the time of the Arab conquest of Egypt in the 7th century CE, the lighthouse was still standing but in a weakened state. It was finally destroyed by a series of earthquakes in the 14th century, and today only the ruins of its foundations remain, submerged beneath the waters of Alexandria's harbor. Despite its destruction, the legacy of the Lighthouse of Alexandria endures. It was a symbol of human ingenuity, a beacon of light and hope for sailors, and a representation of the power and influence of ancient Alexandria. The lighthouse became a model for later lighthouses built throughout the Mediterranean and beyond, and its memory continues to inspire awe and admiration. As you stand on the shores of Alexandria, looking out toward the island of Pharos, imagine the lighthouse as it once stood, its light shining brightly across the sea. The waves lap gently against the shore, and the breeze carries the faint sound of ships arriving in the harbor. The lighthouse may be gone, but its spirit remains, a reminder of the greatness of ancient Alexandria and the vision of those who built it. As our journey through the 7 wonders of the ancient world comes to an end, we find ourselves standing at the crossroads of history and imagination. These remarkable monuments, each a reflection of human ingenuity, artistic mastery, and the desire to leave a lasting mark on the world, are more than just physical structures. They are symbols of the cultures and civilizations that built them, reminders of the enduring human spirit that seeks to create, to honor, and to connect with the divine. From the soaring heights of the Great Pyramid of Giza, which has stood the test of time for millennia, to the lush and mysterious hanging gardens of Babylon, whose very existence still captivates the imagination, we have explored wonders that embody the aspirations of their builders. We have walked in the shadow of the towering statue of Zeus, gazed up at the majestic columns of the Temple of Artemis, and marveled at the intricate beauty of the Mausoleum at Halicarnassus. We have stood beneath the towering figure of the Colossus of Rhodes, a symbol of strength and unity, and followed the guiding light of the Lighthouse of Alexandria, which once shone across the Mediterranean Sea. Though many of these wonders have been lost to time, their stories live on. The ancient writers and travelers who documented their grandeur ensured that future generations would continue to be inspired by the achievements of the past. These monuments remind us not only of the remarkable technical and artistic skills of the ancient world, but also of the values and beliefs that shaped the people who built them. The seven wonders were more than just marvels of architecture. They were expressions of faith, power, and human connection to the divine. The Great Pyramid was built to guide Pharaoh Khufu to eternal life. The statue of Zeus honored the king of the gods and his role in the Olympic Games. The Colossus of Rhodes celebrated a hard-won victory, and the Lighthouse of Alexandria was a beacon of safety and knowledge. As we leave behind these ancient wonders, let us reflect on the lessons they offer. They remind us that even the most grand and ambitious achievements are fleeting, subject to the passage of time. Yet they also show us that through creativity, collaboration, and dedication, humanity can achieve greatness that resonates across the ages. Now, as the night settles in and the world around you grows quiet, let the memories of these ancient wonders fade gently into your thoughts. Imagine the calm seas lapping against the shores of Alexandria, the distant glow of the lighthouse's beacon shining across the water. The weight of history surrounds you, comforting and steady as you drift deeper into a peaceful, restful sleep. Good night.